What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another video. Today I'm coming to you from down in my basement. This is my live stream studio. I do bike live streams on my other channel. The reason I'm down here is because my upstairs tenant cleans his apartment, does his vacuuming, listens to music on Saturdays. He's a great tenant, no big deal. I usually record these during the weekdays when everyone's working, but I have been so busy with studio photography this week, I just didn't have a chance to get a video out. So here we are on a rainy Saturday. I would probably normally be out riding my bike, but instead we're down here in the live stream studio. I did a little tour of this studio or space where I work on bikes and stream from earlier, but I want to redo another one eventually because I've changed a lot of it down here. That'll be a future video. Anyways, for this video, I wanted to talk a little bit about my idea of being a normie professional photographer, and I'm still a hobbyist photographer as well because I do shoot a lot of stuff for myself and do analog photography and things like that. The reason I want to talk about this is because I feel like this channel is or can be more relatable than some other things because of my path. So I also thought this channel has kind of grown a little faster than I expected, so having a little video about a little bit of my path and where I come from might make sense to have out there. So I've been a professional photographer full-time for about 10 years. So when I say that, I mean that is my source of income. That's how I eat and put a roof over my head. I moved into this building in 2015. This is my space. I have two tenants that I rent out to, and originally I was renting to another photographer on a monthly basis, but she ended up retiring. So I'm the only one in here. You know, if you've seen, Dave comes and helps me out on other projects as well, once or twice a week. But in general, it's just me here in the studio. When I compare myself and saying normie photographer, what does that mean? Well, I live in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, right on the border with Akron, Ohio, two mid to smaller sized cities, however you classify them. Akron's under 200,000 people. And so what I was thinking is this is a kind of smaller market. I do travel a little bit for work, you know, sometimes up to Cleveland, but in general, I am mostly working in Akron, Ohio. So I felt like the photography I do and becoming a professional photographer on this level is something that probably most professional photographers are. So I do watch all the great YouTube channels, read books, read articles by photographers who are very famous and very well-known and have made great content for years and are just awesome photographers. I read about all the classic photographers who are famous from back in the day. I love all that stuff. I have libraries of books, but I always think that, yes, as I've mentioned, that's not always maybe the most relatable thing, even though you can still learn a ton from those people. If you're trying to break in to be a pro, or if you're a pro in a city like Akron, then your path and what you do on the day-to-day basis might be more like what I do. So when I watch the videos of the big like New York City photographers, there may be some fashion photographers or big studio photographers or LA or whatever it may be. Some of the, you know, say extreme sports photographers like Chase Jarvis. I think that stuff's very interesting and you could learn a ton from it. But I also think that, you know, I kind of relate it to what I do in like cycling. So I am not a racer. I don't do like the Red Bull type stuff where I'm going down crazy mountains with the GoPro on my helmet and all that. I ride around where I live. And so I feel like that channel about bikes has grown on a level because it's the way most people ride bikes. And I feel kind of the same way then with the photography thing. So this is going to be the way most people take photos. And when they're breaking into the business, this is the way they're working. So I am not rich. I don't have an unlimited budget. So I do have to like consciously make my purchases, you know. This YouTube channel is small. People aren't just sending me all the cameras and stuff for reviews. So, well, there is a place for that. You know, when I look at someone like Jared Pullen, he gets to handle all the gear. So he does have a great opinion on what works best and what is like this and what is like that. I also think it could be a negative because their decisions don't have to be made on the same level as someone like me or maybe you watching this. And then also the kind of gigs I'm doing are the kind of gigs that other people would do, or, you know, or the gigs I started off doing might be what some of you do. So I'm working for local businesses a lot. So when I'm going in to do product photography and stuff, it might be a machine shop where they could only shut down certain things for a little bit of time here and there. So I'm trying to be really quick and efficient and set up my lights and get the shots I need to get and get, say, the portraits I need to get and move on because people don't have the time or the budget for me to shut down their place for a week. So you become a really efficient and fast photographer working in the way I do. You still have to bill for, you know, the skill you've built up to be quick like that. And then I also do a lot of event photography to fill in the gaps. When I was reading about photography, wanting to break into it, I read constantly. Everything was all about niching down and specializing. I have found when you're in a market like this, it's the absolute opposite. So the whole idea of niching down, I would not have a business if I only did like that, like I said, that machine shop photography, or if I only did business portraits. So I'm doing events all the time for nonprofits and business, like their parties, or, with the nonprofit stuff, it's a lot of time cocktail hour, dinner, an award type deal, and then maybe some kind of dancing or hanging out, depends on what the situation may be, auctions and stuff like that. So real on your toes work, stuff that I learned a ton about from being younger and actually shooting in all of my friends' bands and stuff in dark clubs, really prepared me for the event photography stuff, because when you're shooting in dimly lit places and, things that might be moving and stuff happening, that really prepared me for when I went out to shoot event photography and needed to get the best photos of everyone. The other interesting thing is, since I've been becoming a pro and even before trying to break in to be a professional, the business has kind of been going in that direction in some aspects. So like the bottom definitely fell out because everybody has one of these with a really, really good camera in it. So, a lot of people, they don't have a reason to spend on commercial photography. So I found going after like the higher end product photography people who need stuff to look really perfect, is the way I have to go. I have friends who do ask me, like, is it worth me hiring you? And I see their Instagrams, and that's primarily where they're posting, and they know where the light is in their building and how to light the thing that they're selling, say it's an artist or whatever. And a lot of times I tell them, no, right now you're doing what you need to do, and you're doing a great job of it. I never blow smoke. I never try to ring people up for no reason. There's other things where you need that picture to look next level. You want good lighting, good studio lighting, and you have the budget for it. And that's when, yes, I can really help you out with that. I will always say that event photography, I feel like it's worth paying an event photographer. When I look at what the catering must cost and what I'm going to charge you, which will be a fraction of that, I think it's worth having those moments, especially if you do your event every year. Then you take that photography from the last year and use it to promote the next year's event. But even it's still just different than the smartphone right now. That'll change at some point, but I still think event photography is something that is worth charging people for. And that if you want your event to look professional, it is so noticeable when you've paid someone to do the photos. Plus, a lot of times it's just the fact that the people organizing the events, they don't have time to be walking around doing it. You're hiring someone with an eye to cover the event, no matter what the quality of the cameras really is. So I meet up with younger photographers once in a while. Someone will ask me if they could meet me for coffee or a beer, or there'll be a third party who has hired me before and they're like, hey, I have this young guy who works here, or I have this friend. They want to get into the professional photography business. Like, is there any way you would mind talking to him? And I like to be able to do that. And I don't know how helpful it is. I just tell my story, which is basically, I learned photography by carrying a camera everywhere and reading all the books and watching all the YouTube videos and, reading Strobus by David Hobby is how I learned to light stuff. And then I ended up meeting a professional photographer in the studio and assisting for him for a while. But it really was like to learn the craft before I decided to try and charge people for it. I think no matter what you want to do in life, if you're trying to start your own business, that's very important. You can't open a restaurant if you haven't figured out how to cook the food, and that's can't open a brewery if you haven't learned how to brew good beer. And I've watched that all go sideways too. So first, it really was that process of, hey, I feel like this is to the level where I can charge for it. But after that, it was, I had done a couple things here and there for friends' bands, real cheap, $50, $100, maybe someone who needed some portraits or headshots, very inexpensive, not enough to be a full-time photographer. I still had all kinds of other jobs, so it was just a little bit of a side hustle. What had happened was I was at this event that was taking place behind a old hardware store and little antiques type store thing. They were having fires and food and music and all that. I took a bunch of pictures. I had posted it to a blog that I still run, but ran forever. This blog was a big part of me learning photography. I made a goal to post daily. I never kept up on that, but the idea of trying to come up with something new to photograph and write about and edit every single day was hugely important to me, like getting to where I wanted to be. I'm like that goal-oriented type person where if I give myself a mission, it really helps me do it. So anyways, I was just there to hang out, but of course had my camera, took a bunch of photos, did all, edited, made the blog post. A guy who runs a marketing firm, PR firm, that ran in kind of similar circles, but I didn't know at the time saw it. Actually went to my website, called me on the phone, and then asked me about a couple things if he could hire me for. One was machined parts, and the other one was a charity event. So the two things that I do a lot of still, products and events. And I was like, yeah. And then when he was like, yeah, my photographer actually retired, and he named him, and it was Rick who owned this building. I was like, well, there's some continuity here because that's the studio I use, because I used to borrow it from Rick when I could, because I help him renovate it and do the assistant work. So that's really what put me on the track. At first, I felt like all my eggs were in a basket with that company, which made me a little nervous. But then as I did it more and more, I built up the portfolio. I was able to diversify word of mouth. Who took these photos happened a lot. My whole business has been word of mouth. Edmund the cat has just come to hang out and say hello as well. This is how my live streams go. The cat sits on my lap. And that got me going. I still held down a couple part-time jobs till the point where I was like, I need to be available. If I'm not available and I tell a client like, oh, I can't do it that day, they just went to the next person down the list. And then, I kind of lost out on that gig. So that's the hard thing with breaking through. Even after you have a couple gigs, you need that availability. People are going to be shooting, that 9 to 5, Monday through Friday for, most things. Now I'm at a point where people will drop stuff off at the studio, and I could do it in the evening. I could do it like I'm working right now on Saturday. I've been editing all these photos that I shot all week because it's a rainy day. But that is one of the hardest things, is deciding where are you at that point where you could jump off that cliff and see if you can make it. But it's something you'll have to do at some point if you do want to break into things. So that's where I'll be going with this channel, is talking about what I do as a professional photographer. I still want to talk about other things. I don't want to totally niche this channel down to just that, even though that's what the algorithm kind of likes. It just makes sense. It knows who to show your videos to. If they watch it, then it kind of expands the circle to more people. I still want to do some of the film photography stuff. Like I said, I'm a normie hobbyist. I just like to experiment with different old cameras. That all started for me in like 2012. A big part of it was I really loved black and white photography in high school. I'm old enough that we actually had a darkroom, and that's how we learned. Digital wasn't really a thing. So I got back into that, but also at the time, being a hobbyist, I couldn't afford all like the different lenses I wanted to try out. I just couldn't. And then so film photography gave me a way to try and experiment with more stuff, as especially then it was really cheap. The YouTube thing with analog had not taken off yet. I really wish I would have stuck with it back then, because I'd probably be just an analog YouTube photographer right now. But anyways, I actually did back in the day set up my 7D was my first camera that can do video. I decided I'll make a YouTube channel. I want to learn video anyways. I got all my like little cameras and my film stuff around, and I sat down on the table, turned the camera on. I looked directly at it, and I just go, oh, I am going to be horrible at this. And I didn't try again for a while. I just froze up, even though there was no one around. It was quiet. I picked a quiet day. I couldn't do it. A little later, I had a girlfriend, and I got her into the idea of doing beer reviews. We were really into going to breweries and craft beer, still am. And so the beginning of my other channel was really craft beer reviews, but the goal was to teach myself video. And that really came in handy. There were a lot of photographers as video was coming out that were like, oh, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to learn that. I'm so glad I did, because I started doing that, and not that much longer was the event that I mentioned that kind of had my commercial photography business pick up. A couple years later, the same guy was like, hey, can you do video? And by then I did know how to do talking head videos with some B-roll because of the YouTube channel. So nobody had ever watched any of those reviews. I mean, a few friends here and there, but it didn't matter. The idea of like working on something weekly is how I taught myself. So that is also what happened with my other channel. I had done, like I said, beer reviews. I had done all kinds of stuff on there, here and there. And then I decided that at the beginning of 2020, one of my weaknesses was editing Premiere. Not that I couldn't do it well. It just took me a long time. I didn't know it like I had learned Photoshop, how I could just Photoshop, keyboard shortcuts. I knew exactly what I needed to do when I looked at something. Premiere, I wasn't using it enough. I still found myself having to look up stuff and go into menus and all this, it was just too slow. So in 2020, I'm like, I'm going to put out one video every week. And I stuck to that. I've stuck to it till this day. But some was analog photography, some was bikes. Then the pandemic hit, and I had time to really work on that stuff and work on audio, start to learn a little bit better with color grading, something I still am working on now. But what happened is the bike thing that's what people were relating to. I started doing these live streams. Not many people were chatting about cameras. Everyone was talking about bikes. I found myself trying to work bike or camera stuff into my bike content to the point where I just decided if I want to do camera stuff, I need a different channel for it. It just makes more sense. Started this and only posted here and there. But starting this year, my goal is to do one video a week on this channel. And again, doing that, already this channel, like I mentioned, has grown. It surprised me that some of the videos are doing as well as they are. I didn't expect it to happen this quickly, but the consistency on YouTube is key. But again, the goal to me, that's a side benefit of people watching it and it doing well and being able to help people and do something interesting, in my opinion. But it's the same thing, whereas I want to get better again at audio and talking head stuff, because with the bike stuff taking off, I'm usually using a GoPro and I'm filming my rides, and that's kind of what I do over there. So I've kind of lost the advancing my skills by constantly doing the stuff that's more related to what I'd be doing for work. So that is part of the goal of this channel, is to get back to that and improve my photography skills again. I am working a little bit more on the setup upstairs. I want to talk about that in a future video as I keep testing out different lighting. And again, I'm doing different stuff with the sound. Today I'm recording through the pod mic into a Tascam audio interface. I'm recording this on the R5 with a 16 to 35 millimeter lens. There's a shotgun mic on there. I'm going to sync the audio after this video and delete the original audio off the camera. So all that kind of stuff. So it's just kind of a learning experience for me. If you're still here in this video, it's a little rambly. I knew I was just going to sit down and talk and make a video to put a video out this week. That's how I'm starting this channel. But let me know if there's something you're interested in the comments. I might not get into a super deep answer there. I mean, I'll answer every question. I don't get that many comments yet, but it might be great ideas for future videos. So if you're like a working photographer in Akron, how do you deal with this situation? How do you deal with billing? One of the most confusing things in the photography business. I'm really lucky that first big client of mine, he would say, this nonprofit has a budget of this. Does this work for you? This company can pay about this. And there were times where I was straight up asked the guy, I'm like, I don't know what to bill for this job. So that was very valuable to me, but that's always one of the biggest things, is figuring out what to charge people. Also, I know a lot of questions around event photography. How many photos do you give someone? 3-hour event, what goes on with that? So questions like that, if you have any of those, it's stuff I could talk about in future episodes. I do want to do some of the analog photography history I've done. The biggest video on this channel is about Canonettes. I hope you stick around. There's, if there's a video that just doesn't relate or doesn't have a topic that's interesting to you, skip it, but I do kind of want to be able to do stuff that's more fun to keep me entertained while I get better again at doing this kind of video work. So I don't know. Like I said, rambly video, but I appreciate it. I also did want to mention, if you guys know what a Discord server is, it's kind of like a glorified message board. I've grown that like a bike community on a Discord. Instead of making a separate one, I already have photography and videography stuff on there. So I think what I'm going to do is make different sections. So there could be a photography and videography section. So I will link that down below. I also do have a little store with some Fitzwater photography stuff in it. Most of it's bike related, but some of it is just my logo. So if you want to support what I'm starting to do over here, let me know. Also, let me know, would anyone want to hang out for live streams and just nerd out about cameras? Because that was my original idea behind doing that when I used to do it up in the studio. This has been the longest outro and ramble ever. Thanks as always for watching. I will see you in the next one.